some wounds don't come from what happened to you. They come from what never did. Nobody knocked. Nobody sat on the edge of your bed and asked what was really going on. You were right there behind that door your whole childhood, and the people who were supposed to find you never came looking. A child who waits long enough for something that never arrives doesn't just feel sad. They start to wonder if they were worth coming for. And that question, that quiet, devastating question, follows them everywhere. We understand certain kinds of pain, shouting, chaos, something with a clear before and after. But this isn't that. This is the parent who came home every night and never really arrived. The childhood where technically everything was fine, and you grew up not knowing what to call it because nothing happened, except something did. Over and over and over again you reached for connection and nothing reached back. Not cruelly, just nothing. Psychologists call it childhood emotional neglect. And the reason it stayed hidden for so long, barely talked about, barely understood, is the same reason it was so hard to survive. It has no moment you can point to, no scar anyone else can see. Just a slow, consistent absence of something that should have been there. And the child living inside that absence doesn't grow up thinking their parents failed them. They grow up thinking something is wrong with me. So you learned. You learned that needing things created silence, and silence felt worse than not asking. So you stopped asking. You learned that showing excitement about something you made, something you felt, something that mattered to you usually just hung in the air, unanswered. So you stopped showing it. You got very good at being easy. Low maintenance, never a problem, and piece by piece, without anyone noticing, you disappeared. Every unshared feeling was a piece. Every swallowed need. Every time you decided, it's fine, I don't have to say it, you were learning to take up less space. And here is what that does over time. You become an adult who genuinely doesn't know what they feel. Not because something is wrong with you, but because emotions aren't something we figure out alone. We learn them the way we learn language, through someone reflecting them back. You seem sad right now. Is that right? If that never happened, you grew up in a kind of fog. Something is there. You can feel the weight of it. But you can't find the words, so you carry it. Quietly. Unnamed. The ignored child doesn't always grow up to be the quiet one. Sometimes they become the loudest person in the room. Because they found out early if you can make people laugh, they'll stay. If you can be useful, they won't leave. If you never need anything, they can't be disappointed in you. Some of you are still running that logic right now, still performing, still fixing, still holding everything together, because being needed always felt safer than being wanted. Some of you chased achievement like it was a message to someone. Every win quietly addressed to a person who never looked up. Still trying at 24, at 33, at 40 to produce something impressive enough to finally be noticed. And some of you went completely the other way, sealed yourself off, became someone who doesn't need much, doesn't ask for much, doesn't let people close enough to leave. But you know what's true late at night? You don't actually want distance. You just stop believing closeness was safe. And when someone shows up for you now consistently, without conditions, you don't relax into it. You wait for it to stop. Not because you're broken, because your whole life taught you one thing: attention doesn't stay. That child is still in you, in the way you over-apologize before anyone's even upset, in the way conflict feels like it could erase everything, in the way someone says, "I need some space," and your whole body hears something much older. And then there's the grief, not loud, not dramatic, just quiet, sitting behind your ribs. You might have called it anxiety, or that feeling of being alone in a crowded room, But what it actually is mourning something that never happened. A version of your childhood where someone knocked, where someone asked how you were and actually wanted to know, where you didn't have to shrink yourself to be tolerated. That grief is real. It counts, even if no one ever told you it did. Healing from this doesn't show up all at once. It shows up in small things. It's feeling something and not immediately telling yourself you're being dramatic. Just letting it exist for a second. It's catching yourself deflect a compliment, that automatic, "oh, it was nothing," and pausing long enough to ask, "why can't I let that in?" It's saying one true thing to one person, something you actually need, and letting them respond. That's it. That's where it starts. Not a breakthrough, not a revelation, just you paying attention to yourself the way no one did back then. And every time someone shows up for you and stays every time you let them, something in you quietly adjusts. The nervous system is not permanent. It doesn't have to stay the shape of your childhood forever, but it needs you to start knocking on your own door first, checking in on the part of you that learned to go quiet, asking genuinely, how are you actually doing, and waiting for the answer. If something in this video sat with you, if it felt less like information and more like someone finally saying it out loud, that recognition you're feeling right now, don't brush past it. Because here's the truth, it was never that you were hard to love. No one was paying attention to the door.